So this is a physics a formula revision video part 1. So here we are going to see some basic formulas from physics subject. There's actually a lot of equations and formulas and concepts, everything in the physics subject. It is the basics of all engineering branches actually. So here we are going to see some very basic and yet important formulas in this video. These videos I'm actually planning to do because of the Airport Authority of India recruitment for air traffic controller and also for scientific assistant physics recruitment. Okay, so for those people who are preparing for these two examinations mainly, these equations will be useful, and also for general awareness there can be a lot of questions from physics subject also. So here it is, we are going to see all the important formulas asked as part by parts. Okay, so this is the part 1. Okay, so let us see the formulas. First, let us see the formula for displacement. Okay, so displacement is actually the change in an object's position from the origin, and it is a vector quantity. So whatever change is happening in the position, the direction and magnitude both are actually important. So it is a vector quantity. And in terms of an equation, if you write displacement, it is final position minus initial position, and it is actually the change in position of that object. Okay, and in terms of an equation with variables, you can write it as d is equal to xf minus xi, where d is a displacement, xf is a final position, xi is an initial position. Okay, and it will be taken as delta x for very short change in position. Okay, so this is the equation for displacement. Okay, next equation is actually distance, speed and time formula. Okay, that is, here we are going to discuss about the distance, speed, time, how are they related, and how can we study this relation very fast with the help of this triangle. So if you talk about speed, speed is the measure of how quickly an object moves from one place to another. It is a scalar quantity. Okay, so how quickly an object can move from one position to another is called speed. It is equal to the distance by time. That is, distance traveled by time is the speed. And it is possible to find the relation between distance, speed and time. That is, there is actually a relation between distance, speed and time, and it can be represented with the help of this triangle. Okay, so you can see a triangle here. There is a distance on the top, speed here, time here. Speed is equal to distance by time. Then time is the product of, time is equal to distance by speed. Then distance is equal to speed into time. You have to take the product. Okay, so this is the relation, and it is written it here. Speed is equal to distance by time, time is equal to distance by speed, and distance is equal to speed into time. In terms of some variables also you can write same thing only, but we have actually used some variables. S is for speed, D is for distance, and T is for time. This is actually very important equation, but it is very easy to study also. You can study it with the help of this triangle. Okay, so that is the equation. Next one, velocity formula. Okay, so velocity is actually the measure of how quickly object moves, but the velocity is actually a vector quantity. Why? Because it is taking into consideration the magnitude of speed and the direction. Okay, so if it is a scalar one, we take it as speed. If it is vector, we say it as velocity. Okay, so that is the main difference between speed and velocity. Velocity is a measure of how quickly object moves. So it is the change in position of the object divided by time. And velocity has magnitude and also direction. So if somebody is asking you what is the difference between speed and velocity, speed is scalar, velocity is vector. Both is actually having the same ideology, but when taking velocity, we're also taking into consideration the direction. Okay. So the equation is final position minus initial position by time, that is change in position by time, xf minus xi by t, that is delta x by t. Okay, delta x we are actually taking when the change in position is very short or very small. So the equation is v equal to xf minus xi by t, where xf is the final position, xi is the initial position, t is the time, and v is the velocity. Okay, so I hope this much is clear. Next one, average speed formula. Okay, so average speed of an object is a measure of distance covered by the object in a set period of time. Okay, so it is actually distance covered by, that is distance covered divided by time. Average speed has a magnitude and it is a scalar quantity. See here, we are actually taking the average of speed. Speed is a scalar, so average of speed will be also scalar. Okay, so S average is equal to delta D by delta T, where D is the distance in meters, T is the time in seconds. Delta D we are actually taking for short, that is short form of change in distance, and if it is like, consider that the change in distance is actually taken by the sum of couple of distances, then delta D will be equal to D1 plus D2 plus D3 plus etc. up to Dn, and delta T will be T1 plus T2 plus T3 up to Tn. Okay, that is total distance by total time. That will be the average speed. Okay, it is a scalar quantity. Next one, angular velocity formula. Okay, so we have actually seen regarding the normal velocity. Now what is angular velocity? Angular velocity is a measure of how quickly an object moves through an angle. Okay, it is a change in angle of the moving object. That is how much change is there in the angle of the moving object. That is called angular velocity. That is, it is the change in angle of the moving object divided by time. Angular velocity has magnitude and also direction. See here, we are talking about velocity here. So the velocity is actually considered, so the velocity is actually concerned with the direction and the magnitude. So it is a vector quantity. So here also angular velocity is again a vector quantity. Here the change in angle we are actually measuring. Okay, so if you say it is a equation, angular velocity is equal to final angle minus initial angle by time. That is change in position in terms of angle by time. Okay, so W, or you can say it as omega. Most commonly we say it as omega. Omega is equal to angular velocity, and that is final angle minus initial angle. See here clearly, you can see that we are taking angles. Okay, change in angles we are taking by time. Okay, so that is angular velocity formula. Next one, acceleration. Okay, so we have all heard of the term called acceleration. Now what is it? Let us see. Acceleration is a measure of how quickly the velocity of the object changes. There is a change in velocity is called acceleration. So the acceleration is a change in velocity divided by time. Okay, acceleration has a magnitude and a direction. Since we are taking here velocity, so the acceleration is again a vector quantity. Okay, the direction of acceleration does not have the same direction of velocity. It can vary. Okay, the unit of acceleration are meter per second square. Okay, so acceleration is equal to final velocity minus initial velocity by time. That is, the change in velocity by time is the acceleration. Okay, so here A, that is acceleration, is equal to Vf minus Vi by t. That is delta V by t is the acceleration. Here you can see clearly we are taking the difference between the velocities. Vf is the final velocity, Vi is the initial velocity, and the change in velocity by time we are taking as acceleration. So whether the acceleration is that is, the direction of acceleration is actually depending on the change in velocities. Okay, so whichever velocity is higher, it will be moving or accelerated to that direction. Okay, so anyway, acceleration is a change in velocities by time. That is the equation. Okay, next one. So if there is an acceleration, there is another thing which is called deceleration. Deceleration is actually the opposite of acceleration. It is a rate at which an object slows down. Okay, so if when we say acceleration or accelerate, means it is actually increasing. See, we generally talk about the increase in speed, right? But anyway, it can have both cases. It can be increase or decrease. Now clearly deceleration means it is the opposite of acceleration. The rate at which the object slows down is called deceleration. Okay, so it is actually, deceleration is the final velocity minus initial velocity. You can see here acceleration, we take final velocity minus initial velocity by time, right? Here also deceleration is final velocity minus initial velocity with a negative sign in the result because the velocity is dropping. Okay, so the velocity is actually dropping, so there is a negative sign in the result. Okay, The formula of acceleration can be used, but we have to put a negative sign to the result. Okay, here there is not a negative sign actually given, but you have to put a negative sign also, just to indicate that we are actually slowing down, or we are slowing down the object. Okay, so deceleration is again final velocity minus initial velocity by time. Okay, next one. Force formula, very important formula, but very simple one. So force is the mass of the object multiplied by its acceleration. So we have already seen what is acceleration. So that acceleration, if you multiply with the with the mass of an object who is accelerating, then we'll get the force on that object. Okay, and the unit of force is kilogram meter per second square. You can clearly see it here. We are taking the unit of mass, and then we are taking the unit of acceleration, and we are taking the product of those two units, and hence we'll be getting the force formula or the force unit. And this kilogram meter per second square, we call it as Newton, and it is represented using the symbol capital N. Okay, so force has a magnitude and a direction. So again, it is a vector quantity. Okay, so that's the force formula. Next one, momentum formula. So momentum is a quantity with a value and a direction. So it is a product of mass of an object and its velocity. So here we are taking the product of mass and velocity. For force case, we are taking the product of mass and acceleration. Here we are taking the product of mass and velocity. You can see that P is equal to mv. So we use a variable P for representing momentum, and it is taken by, or it is given by, the product of mass and velocity. The unit of momentum is kilogram meter per second. So just again taking the units of mass and velocity and taking the product of both, we will be getting the unit of momentum, which is also equivalent to joule second, JS. Okay, so that is momentum. So all these formulas are very simple, but if you go for some competitive examinations, you will be finding these formulas useful. Why? Because you can either find questions connected with theory, or there will be questions from small numerical questions. Okay, so next one, torque formula. So torque, in rotational motion, torque is required to produce angular acceleration of an object. So here in this video, you can actually see the definition and the equations and also the units. So if you want to have a quick revision on these topics or on these equations, then you can make use of this video. Okay. So here we are going to talk about torque, and in rotational motion we are actually seeing torque, and torque is required to produce an angular acceleration of an object. The amount of torque required to produce angular acceleration, it depends on the mass of the object. Okay, so if you see the formula of torque, torque is equal to I alpha, where I is the moment of inertia and alpha is the angular acceleration. Okay, so torque is actually, it is fixed around an axis. So if you want to find torque, then you have to take the product of moment of inertia and angular acceleration. Okay, so that's regarding the torque. Next one, work formula, very basic thing, it is work. So work is actually, it is the result when a force acts on an object and that object moves by some distance. Okay, so force, generally we use an equation for force is for work as force into distance. Here we'll again take the angle also. So work is equal to force into distance into cosine of the angle between the force and the movement directions. Okay, so if W you are going to take to represent work, then W is equal to F d cos theta. So this is actually theta. Okay, so W is work, K is the force and it is in unit N, and D is the distance. So here you can see we are using F here and we are representing K here. So you can either change this one to K or this one to F. Okay, anyway it is representing force only. So force into distance into cosine of angle between the force direction and movement direction. That is the work formula. Okay, so work is the product of force and distance, and also the angle between the force direction and the movement direction. Okay, so that is work. Next, power formula, again very important one. Power is the rate at which work is done or energy is used. Okay. So for the case of work, we are actually taking the force times the distance and the angle. Then here power means power is the work by time interval. So power is the rate at which work is done or energy is used. It is equal to the amount of work divided by the time it takes to do the work. That is how much time we are taking to do the work. That division or that fraction, we take it as power. So the power is equal to work by time interval. Here you can see P equal to delta W by delta T, where delta W is the work done or the energy used. Delta T is the time taken to do that work. Okay. So that is regarding the power formula. Okay. Next one. Frequency formula. So frequency formula here, frequency is the number of cycles in a unit time. So in frequency is actually a very common thing. We know that for a wave or for a sine wave, you can see frequency means you can number of cycles. If you count, you will get the frequency, right? So frequency is the number of cycles in a unit time. The cycles can be movement of anything with periodic motion. Okay. So if you see a simple wave, for example, a sine wave, you count the number of cycles in unit time, it is called the frequency. And there is a relation between frequency and time period. Okay. Frequency is equal to 1 by period. But if you want, that is, if you want to find the time period, then you have to take the reciprocal of frequency. And frequency is also, as per the definition, it is a number of cycles per unit time. Okay. So that is frequency. Next one, wavelength. Again, these all things are connected actually. Frequency, wavelength, all are connected. So wavelength is the distance between the crest of a wave. Okay. So if you take the distance between the two peaks of a wave, that is called wavelength. Okay. And if you want to say it in form of a definition, wavelength is equal to wave velocity by frequency. Wavelength lambda is equal to V by F. Consider that the wave is moving with a speed of light. Say it is c. Then lambda is equal to c by f. That is the common formula which we use for doing many calculations or problems. Here, if we have actually generalized the wave velocity as c. Now, if the wave is moving with speed of light, then it is lambda is equal to c by f. Okay, so that is wavelength. Next one, kinetic energy formula. Kinetic energy is the energy of the object due to motion. The object is in moving condition and the energy consumed by that object is called kinetic energy. Half mv square is a formula for kinetic energy. Very, very important equation. M is a mass and v is a velocity. Okay. So here it is, the energy is actually due to the motion or it is consumed when it is moving. So we have to take the velocity and the square of velocity, actually square of velocity into half times the mass of the object. Okay. Next, potential energy. Potential energy, we're actually talking in a perspective of electrostatics here. So potential energy is equal to K, charge of one particle, charge of the second particle, and the distance between the particles. This is actually the equation for Coulomb or the charge. Okay. So here potential energy is an energy which is stored in that system. The object or the system is in a static condition, is not moving, and the energy possessed by that system under the static conditions is called potential energy. So here there's a possibility or potential for it to be converted to kinetic energy. So this energies, both the energies are interconvertible. So one is a static version, one is a kinetic version. Okay, I mean one is a moving version, one is static one. So the static energy or the energy which is stored in a system which is static is called potential energy. And the equation is given by potential energy is equal to K Q1 Q2 by R, where Q1 is the charge of one particle, Q2 is the charge of second particle, R is the distance between the two particles. So here if you want to take the potential energy between these two charges which is separated by a distance of R, then you have to use this relation. Okay. So now here you can see that K is actually the Coulomb constant, and we're also taking the permittivity of free space as epsilon 0, where you can see K is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon 0. Okay. Now this epsilon 0 is the permittivity of free space. So clearly, as I've told in the beginning itself, it is in an electrostatic perspective, or it is related to the Coulomb's law. Okay. Anyway, we'll discuss the Coulomb's law later on. Just know that this is the potential energy of the two charges, which is separated by a distance of r. Okay. Next one, angular speed formula. So angular speed is the rate at which the object changes its angle. Okay, so we have seen the normal speed and normal velocity. Angular speed means it is a rate at which the object changes its angle in radians. So the angle is actually represented in radians. So if you take the angular speed, it is actually final angle minus initial angle by time. So the angular change by the time period or in a given time period is the angular speed. So how much is the change in angle within the given time period? That is called angular speed. Okay. Next one. Next is the equation for buoyancy. So it is actually associated with the liquids. So the liquids exert a force on objects immersing or floating in it. Okay, so consider that we are going to immerse an object in a liquid. So this liquid will exert some force on that object. Or consider that an object is floating in a liquid. Again, this liquid is exerting some force on that floating object. That is called buoyancy. The force is equal to the weight of the liquid that is displaced by the object. So when you are putting an object onto the liquid, some portion of the liquid will get displaced due to the space consumption by this object. Okay. So this force is equal to the weight of the liquid that is getting displaced. This is known as Archimedes principle. Okay. And the unit for the buoyant force is Newton. So if you say buoyant force, what is buoyant force? It is the product of density of liquid into gravitational acceleration into volume of liquid, or buoyancy or buoyant force is equal to density into gravitational acceleration into height of liquid into surface area of object. So FB, that is a buoyant force, is equal to rho, which is density, G, which is gravitational acceleration, H, which is height of the liquid which is getting displaced, and surface area of the object. Okay, rho H G H A, that is the equation for buoyant force. So here we are talking about when we are putting an object either on top of a liquid, or we are floating an object on a liquid, or we are immersing an object into a liquid, then some liquid will get displaced, right? And the force exerted by the liquid in turn to the object is the buoyant force. And this is the equation for buoyant force. Okay. Next one. Next is the density formula. So density is a measure of relative compactness, or how heavy an object is relative to its size. Okay. So density is defined as mass in a given unit of volume. Consider that you are going to take a unit of volume. In that, how much mass is present? Okay, that is density rho is equal to m by v, that is mass present in a given volume. M by v is the unit of density. Okay, very basic equation. Next, efficiency formula. So efficiency, we have to actually discuss about efficiency in various cases or various conditions. Sometimes we take the efficiency of instruments or the efficiency of some process. So in any cases, efficiency is the energy output by energy input into 100%. So efficiency we generally represent in terms of percentage. This percentage or this much percentage is efficiency. So here efficiency is the measure of how much work or energy is conserved in the process. And efficiency is given by energy output by energy input into 100%. Next is the formula for electric current. So electric current is actually the rate of flow of charge through the cross section of some given metallic material or a conductor. Okay. So electric current is equal to voltage by resistance. So this relation is actually called Ohm's law, and I is equal to V by R. Electric current I equal to voltage across the conductor or the material which is conducting in nature by the resistance of that material. Okay. So here actually I've given the resistivity conductivity formula by mistake. We'll also see that later. Okay, we'll actually see that later. So here you have to only see the electric current formula. So electric current is equal to voltage by resistance. Next one, current density. Current density is the current within a given cross section or area of the conductor. Okay. So current density is a measure of electric current per unit area, and it is given by J. It is equal to current I by area. Okay. So that is conductivity. That is current density. Next one is electric resistance. So electric resistance is the ability of a material to oppose the flow of charge. So the resistance means it is a opposition to the flow of charge. Okay, and electric resistance in terms of the material, if you say it is electric resistance is equal to resistivity into length by cross sectional area. Resistivity is represented by rho into L by area. L is the length of the conductor, A is the area, and R is the electric resistance. So this equation is very important because you can expect questions by connecting to the variables. That is, when one variable is changed, what is the net change or what is the change in other variable? These type of questions you can expect. Okay. So anyway, electric resistance is equal to rho L by A. Next, the resistance formula in terms of the voltage and the current. Again, this relation we have seen while discussing the electric current. The same relation we are representing or writing in a different way. So we have seen electric resistance actually the opposition to the flow of current, and it is given by R is equal to V by I, the voltage drop across the resistance or the resistor by current flowing through the resistor. Okay, so this is resistance and its unit is ohm. The voltage unit is volt and the current unit is ampere. Okay, so this is the equation for finding the resistance. Next one, resistivity conductivity formula. So what is resistivity? What is conductivity? So resistivity we have already seen, which is rho, which is the property of a material, and conductivity is the reciprocal of resistivity, or you can say it is resistivity is equal to 1 by conductivity. It is a measure of how strongly a specific material opposes the flow of electric current. Okay, so how strongly a material can oppose the flow of current, it is called resistivity, and it is given by 1 by conductivity. Conductivity is represented by sigma, resistivity is represented by rho. Okay, so yeah, so that is the relation or equation for resistivity and the relation between conductivity. Next one is capacitance formula. So we have seen the resistance formula. Next one is capacitance. Capacitance is the property of an object to hold charge, and that devices we call them as capacitor. Okay. So a capacitor is an electrical component that result from creating a small gap between the charge carrying layers. That is, in between the conducting layers, there will be either a vacuum or an insulator or a dielectric will be placed. For example, a parallel plate capacitor, and it will be holding charge. Okay, it has a property to hold charge in between the conducting plates. So capacitance is given by C is equal to electric charge Q by V. That is electric charge by voltage drop across the capacitor plates. So consider that there is two plates. In between that, the voltage drop is V, and Q is a charge holded by that capacitor. Then capacitance is given by Q by V. The unit of capacitance is farads. Q is a charge, its unit is coulomb. V is a voltage difference between the capacitor sides or plates, which is its unit is volts. Okay. Next one is heat transfer formula. So heat is a measure of thermal energy. We know that heat is a form of thermal energy. It can be transferred from one point to another. So heat flows from a point of higher temperature to lower temperature. So just like height difference from high height to a low height, water flows just like that. Heat also flow from high temperature to low temperature. The heat constant, let it be Q, of an object depends on the specific heat mass of the object. Okay, so here if you say the heat transfer is Q, if the unit is Q, then Q is equal to mass into specific heat into temperature change. Okay, so heat content, that is Q, is equal to mc delta T, where m is a mass, C is a specific heat and its unit is joule per gram degree Celsius. T is a temperature. For small change in temperature or for temperature changes, we generally use delta T. Okay. So the temperature change into mass into specific heat is the, that is, it will give you the value for the heat transferred. Okay. So that is heat transfer formula. Next one, Coulomb's law formula. It is a very important equation. So Coulomb's law states that when two charges are kept near to each other by separating by distance, then there can be force of attraction or repulsion. Okay. And the force, electric force between the charges is given by K Q1 Q2 by R square. So when discussing the potential energy equation, there was Q1 Q2 by R. Here it is R square. Okay. So F, that is electrostatic force between two point charges, and it is given by K, which is a Coulomb constant. We have already seen it is 1 by 4 pi epsilon 0. Also, we have seen the value for epsilon 0 while discussing the potential energy equation. Here, we are directly taking K. You can also take K as 9 into 10 raised to 9. Okay, 8.98. While doing the problems, we'll take it as 9 into 10 raised to 9. Then Q is a charge 1, Q2 is a charge 2. And R is the distance between the charges. Okay, so here you cannot see the variable representation of R. Anyway, I'm telling it R is the distance of separation between the two charges. Okay, so the objects with electric charge, they either attract or repel by exerting of forces. And this Coulomb's law is actually giving us an idea regarding the force exerted by these charges to each other. Okay, so that is Coulomb's law formula. Okay. So that is the last formula that we are discussing in this video. The next formulas we'll be discussing in the next part or next video. So there is no really any specific order for this formulas, but I've tried to arrange it maximum according to the relation or connection. So anyway, I've given the explanation in words also, and also the equations I've given, and also the representation of equations also given. Okay. So if you are also not having any ideas regarding these concepts or equations, you can read the paragraphs and you can understand what is that actually representing, what is the concept, and also you can see the formulas. Okay. So if you are preparing for the air traffic control examination or the ISRO scientific assistant physics examination, these formulas are useful. So please do share it with all those friends, and we'll be uploading the part 2 very soon. Okay. So that's it. Please do subscribe to the channel for more videos. Thanks for watching and keep on watching.